Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the DJ Sessions Presents the Virtual Sessions. I'm your host, Darren, and right now I'm in the virtual studios in Seattle, Washington, and coming in all the way from New York City, we have Bissen. I said that right, didn't I?
Yes. How
Short
you
I.
doing, Darren?
Short
Good
I
to
with
see you.
the consonant. I'm doing great today. It looks like you're chilling in the studio there. Is that where all the magic happens for you?
Yeah, pretty much. This is my humble place where I pretty much make all my tracks. Yeah. There's a recording booth behind the camera and place to chill behind me for the clients, and yeah, it's still use a lot of outboard gear, as you can see. Bunch of analog, tube compressors and all kinds of things over here, which I really enjoy. So I'm still kind of in the analog world every now and then. Not all the time, but especially for recordings and stuff like vocals. I run a lot of the vocals through my trusty HHB Radius 50 here, which they don't make anymore, but it's actually replaced a tube in one of them the other day. Yeah, it's that's kind of, I like the kind of being able to touch my gear. That sounds weird.
No. I think having that. I've talked with a lot of producers over the years, and there is something about that tactile touching the knob that you just
Right.
sometimes you just don't get with the mouse. I mean, you can get it, but even if you get a MIDI interface, it's like, all right, but having that piece of gear, unwrapping it out of the box and playing with something
Yeah,
new that's a
I mean, that
physical
was always exciting. Plus, it's a matter of headroom, not being able to clip things, or when you bring something up too much, then everything else ducks, which you get a lot on digital mixing. I mean, I still, a lot of my radio mixes and my dance records, or electronic records, I do on an analog console still. Not all, but for the most part, I still, like the big records, I still mix on an analog board. But it's the same thing with DJing. It's you wanna kind of feel the knobs and stuff. I mean, it's much better to that's why CDJs still have the turntable, even though nobody's using turntables anymore, right? Because you want to be able to feel what you're doing. It makes a difference. I think it's the connection between tactile feedback and the brain of what's going on. So yeah.
I recently just interviewed somebody. I can't believe it was just a week and a half ago, and he did this music project where he went up with the French aeronautics, the French astronaut team in their plane, and they did a musical experiment in 0G.
Oh, that's weird.
They're like flying around and they're trying to play on the keyboard. They're trying to make music. He had his laptop over there doing something. He's like, they're floating in the air and he's trying to hit and create this music experience in zero gravity. Nothing like that had ever been done before. Apparently, it was kind of just this really cool thing. But bringing that physical gear, because you want to hit the key on the piano and the keyboard, it floats away from you. You're like, whoa, how do I get this back? Or, he had this object where it was one of the knobs on the keyboard. He was able to spin the keyboard, and the keyboard's actually spinning around like this.
Oh, that makes sense, right? Because right, that's cool.
Really kind of manipulating music in an environment like that. Hopefully those sirens are not coming into the background, but we always love flavor added into the show.
There you go.
You know what it's like living in New York.
Yep.
But you've had a long career. Can you tell us about your background? Really, what got you started in all this music making?
Okay, so yeah, I mean it goes back to really my, I don't know, 8th grade, I would say. So I was always into music. My dad actually, I was playing, I was classically trained on violin and piano, but before that, even my dad was showing me 4 basic chords that pretty much are all the 4 basic chords of pop music, and uh, he just showed me on the piano how to play them in C major, which is the easiest chord like scale because it's all white keys. And so from there on, I just kind of started playing around with those chords and starting to make really, really simple and silly songs. There's still cassettes floating around somewhere. Um, which if anybody ever finds those, you can probably blackmail me because I sang on them too, but like this high pitched voice. I mean, it's hilarious. But anyway, so yeah, so I was making I was kind of experimenting different versions of the chords, etc. And then I guess my parents saw that there was some kind of potential, which is always nice to see, I guess, from a parent's perspective. And I always had great mentors, right? So I remember my music teacher from 5th grade. Then I had a great piano teacher. Then my high school music teacher was absolutely amazing. So with all these mentorships and then I got my first synthesizer in 8th grade, and this is it's still sitting right here. It's the SY99. It's a Yamaha. Right now it's vintage. Obviously, it's 25 years old or something. Still works. I actually had it repaired like 5 years ago because something broke on it, but I love it that much. And so I started making music on it. It has a built-in sequencer. So I was trying to emulate a lot of pop music and new wave stuff, that was kind of coming out, early dance music, early 90s stuff. And so I was just experimenting around, and I basically spent my entire free time just banging away on this little thing over here on this keyboard. And so throughout high school, etc., so I got a little better at it. And then I went to college, obviously. So and there again, I had an amazing mentor who really helped me get to the next level. I did a lot of music production courses, engineering courses. I interned at a facility that with a mixer engineer who really taught me everything I know about mixing right now. I mean, he was just amazing. So from there on, I moved to New York afterwards. And then I got my start in the music for advertising business, because that's kind of how I fell into it, because I knew somebody who was running a shop that was making music for ads. And so that was a way to really make money professionally on producing music, right? So that's kind of how I got my start in the professional world of making music. And then after a while, I opened my own shop, which first focused mostly on also music for commercials. And then in around 2007, I want to say, I started releasing a lot of dance records, mostly trance, through Armada and Black Hole, Discover, all the stalwarts of, trance music, really. And so that kind of got my start as a DJ, because if you produce and you go on tour. So yeah, that's kind of the background story.
And if you could describe your music up until now, I know we got some new projects that you're working on.
Sure.
If you could describe your music up until now in 3 words, what would you call it?
I'm sorry, one more time. If I would describe my own music?
Yeah, your own music in 3 words up until now, because I know you're taking on a new project. We talked a little pre-show.
Well, sure.
But all of those years of culminating it, if you had to describe it and say 3 words, what would you call it?
That's a hard question. I mean, because I do such a variety of things, even though in the kind of DJ world, I'm mostly known for trance. I really do so much different things. Maybe I can do 3 words. I don't know. Definitely musical, right? So I definitely like music to be musical, right? So I don't generally step program at all, like draw in the MIDI notes. I pretty much play everything that comes on a record. So that's the first thing. So emotional, right? Music needs to move me. Like that's number one. It needs to be touching somebody somewhere. When people come up to me after the show, they're like, "Oh my God, this is amazing," or you make me cry during the show, during this moment, or whatever. I'm like, oh, that's why I'm doing this, right? So it needs to be emotional, musical, and needs to move people, right? So I don't like music that just sits there. For me, so yeah, musical, emotional, moving, right? So you want to be able to get people up and dance or whatever it is. I don't like background music. I'm a huge, which is interesting, right? Because I've made a lot of my living writing background music for ads and TV shows and stuff like that. But I think my music is much more uh, interesting, or I like to write music that has meaning and that is memorable. So I really don't like the current state of affairs of the music business, which is really based upon streaming and people having music in as a background for whatever they're doing, right? So the whole Spotifying of the music industry has had a very sort of I think like a blanding effect on music, because if people want to restream a track, it needs to be kind of background music if they're doing something else, right? And for me, music is I always wanted to be uh, memorable, in your face, and um, I wanted to stand out, right? So, but the whole point of streaming is you don't want it to stand out. You want it to blend in with everything else. So I feel like it's just kind of making music extremely bland at the moment, and everybody's just kind of copying everybody else and trying to make the blandest music possible. It sounds kind of, with one exception, and the trans heads are gonna go crazy here. But I absolutely love bass music right now and what's happening in that space, because that is exactly what I crave in music, which is, and not all of it, but I mean, I especially love melodic bass music. But it kicks your ass, right? I mean, it's really just bam right there, and it's memorable, and then you can kind of dance to it. It has everything that I like to have be there in music. So the fact that it's getting so big in the festivals and stuff, to me, is proof that there's still a craving for music that isn't bland.
And you're working on a new project, label, and show right now with your longtime friend Victor Diner, called
Correct.
Halfway House. Tell us how that's going to be different than what you've been doing over the past, it looks like, almost 20 plus years.
Right. So Victor and I have been working together for, I want to say, 12 years now. And we've had quite a lot of success both in the trance world, with tracks like Symmetry C, which we redid from the 90s. We've had Tonight You're Perfect, which is a pretty big record. And then we had a foray for a few years as remixers, and we've done a ton of remixes, many dozens of remixes for major labels. Like a who's who list of A-list artists we've remixed, from Chainsmokers to Madonna to U2. So that was kind of like our focus for a while there, and then COVID hit, and that work kind of went away, and so we've kind of refocused things and said, well, we like our style of music that we've done for the remixing work lends itself really well for clubs, because we've been playing it out as well. It's not quite trance, it's not quite house, it's kind of halfway in between, so we call it Halfway House. And so we can kind of do a little more experimentation, right? So we don't have to be specific to one genre. And so yeah, we're getting ready for our first release now, called Are You Ready? And so that, plus a radio show that we're launching, it's probably going to be launched in a month or so. That'll be a 2-hour show, and a monthly mixed show. So that's what I'm doing with Victor right now.
And in addition to that,
Yeah.
you have a project. I was looking at online about this and your Las Vegas residency, Soul, Soul in the Machine.
Right.
Tell our DJ Sessions fans about that, because I went to Area 15 last year for the first time.
Oh, you did? Oh, cool.
Loved it. I mean, I was there during the daytime. I was there with some friends. got to check out Meow Wolf and we'll do all the experience. And actually had some of the best barbecue I ever had.
Yes.
It's a plate that's not, I think it's not even on the menu. So the staff, I think, told me about it. And like, if you want a sampler, we can do this. I go, but that's not on the menu. And they go, but we can make it for you. So we had that barbecue there, which is just phenomenal.
Right.
But tell us about that project.
Yeah, so I think the place, what is that place called? It's Todd English, it's this restaurant,
Yeah.
and we've actually eaten quite a bit there because oftentimes after a show or something we'll just go and eat there. We love Area 15. It's so I kind of fell into this project almost I want to say a decade ago, and it's a project that was spearheaded by a sculpture artist called Henry Chang. And Henry is really quite brilliant. He makes sculptures out of stainless steel, mostly bent stainless steel pipes, and they're super sized. I mean, he builds art cars that are 40 feet long, but they're still street legal, so they're perfectly drivable. But they're completely built from scratch out of stainless steel. It's absolutely nuts. And what he has is it's a project called Soul and Machine, which is custom built instruments. So Henry's, I don't know, I guess criticism of dance music has always been that all you see is a DJ up on stage going, hands up and pressing play or whatever, all the negative stereotypes that everybody has about DJing. And, some of them are true, some of them are not. Some DJs are like that, others are obviously not. So you can't obviously generalize, but you can't really see what a DJ is doing regardless. That's why, you see some DJs awkwardly throwing up their arms or whatever it is, doing silly dances. So his whole thing was, well, let's bring live performance into electronic music, right? So, and he's like, I want to be able to see what you're doing. And so he decided he's going to put all instruments on a vertical plane rather than on a horizontal plane, right? So one of our kind of theories is that the reason why the guitar won over a synthesizer or a piano is because a guitar is on a vertical plane. You can see what a player is doing. While if you're playing, keyboard, you can't see what a person is doing, and people want to see what a performer is doing. So he built this giant drum wall, which is, I want to say, maybe 10 feet by 30 feet, something like that.
I'm looking at it right now. That is incredible.
And so, he made, it's a sculptured instrument. So he built all the drums out of stainless steel pipes, and they light up when you hit them. He built a laser harp. It's one of maybe 10 in the world. And when you interrupt the laser, it sends a MIDI note to the computer, right? So it's not tactile, but it's pretty cool because you can actually play it like a real harp, but you're interrupting lasers, and that sends an electronic signal that gets transferred into a MIDI note. And then we have I play a marimba in the project, which is a little more on a horizontal plane, but we're building Henry's building laser cannons right now, so you can see what a keyboard player is doing as well. So basically, he came to me and was like, let's basically, I mean, the instruments were already built, but he needed help with production, and then eventually I became a full partner in the project. And basically what I'm doing there is, I produce all the music for the show, and I make sure that everything works, right? So the instruments can talk to the computer. And so what we do is I produce a track, and then we deconstruct it and figure out how we're going to play this thing. And then, obviously the drums are usually pretty obvious. Our drummer is like a drum machine. He's so on. We play with a click track over headphones. And so I would say 80 to 90% of everything that is being heard at the show is created live. So, and, there have been other projects, Underworld or Orbital, that have done electronic music live, but not in a way where you can really see what is being done, and where pretty much everything that is being played is being performed live. and then we have 2 singers and we have some dancers, and there's a 360-degree video projection room. So on top of that, we're working on interactive video with the performance aspect, so that MIDI notes can send signals to video and stuff like that. So we're doing all kinds of things over there right now.
I almost see that room, because that's what I wanted to ask you about next, is the video walls.
Yeah.
And the projection on the video walls. Is that sync obviously with the music? Is it in real time? Like if you changed up, the video projection would change up too, or is it kind of a set?
So right now we're working with linear video, right? So we have a person who sits upstairs, like in the video control center, and a lot of times they will pull video footage. I mean, they know what the songs are like, and they may be live programming the video, but a lot of times it's just a linear piece of music that is synced to the music. And the way it happens is we trigger the front of the song with the start of the video. So when the sequence starts playing, that sends a signal to start the video. So that's always synced. Mm-hmm. Our plan is moving forward. And I have a friend who works in Unreal a lot, Unreal Engine. And so he wants to, or we're talking to him about creating video game worlds for us, basically, where you can populate the environment with live feeds from, dancers with motion sensor suits to, like I said, you're hitting notes that can trigger certain things on the video wall and stuff. So we're trying to make it fully interactive, but we're not there yet.
I was gonna say that that whole experience, just being at Area 15, is kind of is a magical experience in itself. But what you're doing there is so amazing that I would almost see this being applied to a virtual reality environment. Have you?
That's
anything in VR?
That's interesting, because there hasn't been anything concrete, but yes, we've talked to somebody who, it's not Meta. It's another virtual reality world. I forget the name of it. And they were thinking of giving a live feed or into the virtual reality world, basically, so you can experience the concert without having to be there. Which could be definitely something to explore, and it's something we're looking into for sure.
Yeah, we are all. I have been always one of those people that grabs onto new technology. I started a long time ago, almost 30 years ago, in public access television.
Oh, wow.
And that was really our only way you could get a video program out there, unless you had hundreds of thousands of dollars to get the right kind of gear to get it to broadcast television. And it wasn't until around 2000 that cameras started making their way, that they were actually broadcast worthy.
Right.
The FCC signal, you wouldn't burn out. It wasn't a VHS camera, basically. It was, the Canon came out with the GL1 and the XL1 cameras, which were broadcast quality, and film producers were using these cameras to make movies with. And that kind of got us into the broadcast realm, because the price point from getting a beta camera for $25,000 came down to $1,000 to get a GL1. But moving forward, we had a few years after that, you had YouTube released, and then you had the video iPod come out, which then brought in video podcasting to the world.
Right.
A few years later, I got into live streaming, and obviously we had the whole social media boom surrounding that, at the same time. But now moving forward, we're seeing the metaverse as that new frontier for multiple different platforms, where you're not really working in a 2D environment.
Right.
And the capability of doing concerts or art shows or a different end user experience rather than looking at a 2D screen.
Right.
It's going to be huge. Or even augmented reality. I mean, I can see a huge augmented reality.
You're talking, I think it was Marshmello who did a whole show in Fortnite, right?
Yeah, Fortnite.
And I think Chainsmokers just did something there as well. So it's definitely something to, kind of expand your audience in a way that you couldn't otherwise, obviously, because not everybody can be there at all times. So yes, it's certainly an interesting time. Yeah.
We do. Are you familiar with what are called silent disco events?
Yes, yes.
We do silent disco events. We're actually rebranding it, and we now call them silent concerts. And we're looking at actually bringing out the first ever silent festivals, where
Oh
we're
wow.
having 2,000 people plus with
You know,
headliners.
the only thing with that to me is you don't. I mean, the whole point of a concert is you can feel the music, right?
Hmm.
It comes back to feeling it like physically. I mean, if there is a physical sensation when the bass hits your, you know,
Hmm.
torso, right? So uh, for sure, there's that aspect to it that I don't, silent disco has difficulty reproducing. But I like the idea overall because yeah, what?
Are you familiar with what's called haptic technology in terms of
Yes,
speakers?
sure.
So we have actually our headsets, unlike a lot of the headsets out on the market, have the ability. They have an input output port on them, and we can plug it into a haptic device. And basically, hang on a second here. Let me show you this. And they, so we basically take this device here called a Wooger,
Okay.
and this is a haptic
Oh,
speaker.
that's cool.
Plug my
Oh, no
headset in
way.
it.
So
It's a
that
small
solves
little
the problem.
device. Yeah. So I mean, and our headsets go 1,000 feet away, so you can be 1,000 feet away, but the transmission's coming through the headset. The headset feeds the Wooger, and
Right.
as you switch the channels, the Wooger will go with it. So you'll be able to
Oh,
feel
that's
the bass.
interesting.
And this totally has what I call the puppy dog effect to it. You put it on somebody, they get used. They don't have to wear it here. I wear it Iron Man style, but you can wear it on your hip, wear it on your back. And they just released the version 2 of this
Uh-huh.
that has a stronger haptic thing to it. But when people take it off, they're like, wait a second, I can't feel the music anymore. Give me that back. And they want to put it back on. And I love merging those two technologies together. And eventually what we're going to do is also have an augmented reality experience when everyone finally releases their glasses. Apple has theirs, Meta's working on
Oh,
theirs,
that's so cool. Nice.
and so basically you go to our show and hear the music, feel the music, and then
Yep.
have an augmented reality
Oh, cool.
experience with
So
each
that
color
solves
you
the
can
issue
change.
I was just talking about.
Yeah,
There
so
you go.
really cool stuff. And I know that's always been the big one with people. We've actually thought about, when we do our silent disco events, the problem is we would love to bring in like a subwoofer system,
Exactly.
and it would just be the low end,
Right.
but you could only do one stage with that sub.
Well, plus, the other thing is if you have neighbors or something and you
That's
don't want to bother them, right? Then
that's the one thing we love about silent disco is we can throw a pop-up party with 400 or 500 people.
I know it's awesome.
Nobody complains
Exactly.
about the music.
Area 15 has actually had some silent disco events,
Mhm.
so yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome technology, but like I said, I like to merge those technologies together. And then obviously what's cool is we can live stream each of the stages to its own separate channel and have 7 different channels going on. So we have this round trip experience of somebody could be in the audience listening to the red channel, tell all their friends at home on socials, listen to the red channel.
Oh, cool.
Then their friends are at home and one of their friends says, "Oh my gosh, I'm on the green channel. You should get over to the green channel. This is fire." The person at the event could go, "Oh, let me switch over to the green channel." And you're
Right.
having this round trip online immersive experience at the event, but people are also watching it
Wow.
online
That's
all at
pretty
the same time.
Yeah.
It's I try to push those boundaries, but I love what you're
Awesome.
doing at Area 15. I mean, that sounds again where you're going to be able to push those boundaries, and you're
Yeah.
working.
I mean, the one thing is, with I the production level of festivals and stuff has gone up so much over the years, like EDC or Tomorrowland or Coachella, you name it. It's so incredible at this point. Um, you always need to be at the forefront of technology, and those stages are so huge. I mean, they're just so giant. And then the DJ is like morphed, but even our instruments would be morphed on a stage like that. So you always have to kind of augment that with something else
Yeah.
for the full experience. Yeah.
I went to EDC for my first time last year, and when I went there, I went with somebody who'd been the previous 5 years. Beautiful experience, amazing experience. But one of the things he was like is you can actually see the concrete. Things hadn't got back to speed yet. I mean, when I say see the
Oh,
concrete,
right. Yeah.
there weren't that many people there. Normally it's wall to wall jam packed. And I felt, okay, this is cool. I can walk around and like, I'm not feeling like I'm claustrophobic rocking around a bunch of people, but it was such an amazing experience. And what they did there, I was definitely overwhelmed with, like you said, the stage production.
Right.
I didn't see Tomorrowland stage this year, which is just.
But the way that works is DJs send in their mixes like months in advance, or whatever, and then there's a production team behind the scenes that'll basically create all that super time footage for you and make sure that the fireworks go up at the same time, and then at the right time when the drop happens, whatever it is. So all of that is very well produced beforehand. So if to me, that's where that whole performance aspect of DJing becomes a little iffy, right? Because it's such a stage production, which is cool, right? It's great, but you're not actually making anything live at that moment, so.
Yeah, there's the debate on that too. And I mean, that's where I do love the big festival feel, but I've always loved the more intimate club vibe where you're right there and it's maybe 200-300 people and you can see the person making music, doing their show, and feeling the vibe of that little small room. We are going to ADE. I'm going to ADE for my first time.
Oh, you are? Okay, nice.
This month. And I'm super excited. Are you going to be there?
No, I'm not. I for those listening, I guess, it is though ADE where I actually got my start. That's where I kind of got my first record signed, but that was like 15 years ago. So I haven't gone since I think 2018 because then COVID happened and all that other stuff. I'm not going this year. Most of my business is now US based, so I don't do that much work with European labels anymore. But it's still, it was a great networking opportunity. It was much smaller then too. I think now it's kind of overrun a little bit, but I still think it's a great place to go, actually. And if you're starting out or whatever, that is always a good place to just run into people too.
Yeah.
On the staircase, you'll run into Armin or Oakenfold or something like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I've got so much advice from so many people over the last few months, and I was trying to do it all big and be a partner with ADE and do all this stuff, and we were going to partner with this label and do something big there, and now it's come down to I think I'm just going to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. And a lot of the meetings now happen outside of the conference, which is it's become a little more like with the Winter Music Conference now. Yeah. And people meet at like hotels and stuff, so you just kind of have to figure out where everybody is meeting up. But it's it's still definitely a decent event to go to and network for sure.
Yeah, it's when we took our direction earlier this year, you could say we were more stateside based, more focused on doing local stuff because people used to come to Seattle and that's how we'd get a lot of our interviews, is when the artists would come here, and people weren't necessarily set up to do Zoom interviews.
Right, exactly.
They were not used to it. It wasn't like, what's this? And what do I look like? And, did they have proper lighting? Did they have a nice camera? Did they have a setup? Everyone kind of got accustomed to that. And we started doing the virtual sessions. But this year we decided to really go after a more international appeal. We want to be known as like that household name. Right. We felt that ADE would kind of be the crescendo of our kickoff, because next year we're launching a label. We'll start getting into booking artists, doing more events, and all our sponsorship money went bye-bye, because nobody was doing events. So where we could leverage ourselves as a live streaming event company went whoop, and we went to live streaming, but then everybody else in the world jumped on live streaming as well. So the people that we would normally get on as guests started DJing online. And I got my own show. Exactly. Right. And I'm like, okay, well, how's this work out? It was just crazy times, but at least it made for us, though, the ability that people stopped saying, when I said, oh, I have a live streaming DJ show and we're on Twitch, they'd say, well, why would I want to watch a DJ online?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I go, well, have you ever listened to a radio show before? Right. You're listening to a DJ play. And then they go, well, what's Twitch? And I go, okay, well, let me explain like this. You know that company called YouTube that's owned by Google? Twitch is pretty much run by Amazon. They go, oh, now it's a household name that everyone knows Twitch. And we want to kind of be that household name where people are saying there's a great outlet for us. They're producing great content and expanding into other countries and having people on the ground again. I want to get back out on the ground. I miss being on the red carpet,
Yep. Yep.
and doing that stuff, fun stuff. But that's business stuff. And we're here to talk about you. And it sounded like one of the best. My next question, we kind of led into this, but I
Yeah.
was going to ask, what has been the best business decision in favor of your artist career? You mentioned ADE was one of those things that was
Sure.
like perfect. Right. But is there another one that stands out to you?
As a business decision, or like this kind of, well, yeah. So yeah, it's certainly going to, conferences and mingling and networking. I mean, I cannot stress that enough. It's just really, really important. But the one thing that I realized at some point, and then so from a strictly from a business standpoint, it's great to be doing music for sync, TV, etc. But it was never as fulfilling as doing music for yourself, right? So and that's a big risk to take, and it's so but the one thing that you lose when you focus on things that make, I mean, obviously you need to make a living, right? But if you strictly focus on that, you can lose focus on why you got into this in the first place, right? So and it's very difficult to make a living on producing like dance records for the most part, if that's the only thing you do, unless you're like a super producer of some sort. And then same goes for DJing, to be honest. So you always need to have some sort of backup, but not trying to take that risk. That's kind of like where you're too timid to try to move forward with what you want to be doing. That's sort of where I think you at some point you just have to decide, okay, I'm just gonna I'm just gonna go for it. I'm just gonna go full force ahead and just go for it. And then that's I think those are the kinds of decisions that you have to kind of make. And I was making a great living doing music for commercials, but then I went to ADE and my whole world changed, right? And because I had records out on Armada and everything else, I started touring the world, and it was never at superstar DJ level, but it was fun. It was great. And, at some point it died down a little bit and I focused much more on production, which I enjoy. I realized I enjoyed that a lot more too. I love going to DJ and vibing with the crowd and all that stuff. And, I love performing with Soul Machine, for example, because you kind of get that same high. But for the most part, I'm really a producer more than I am a DJ. So, and that's another thing. You have to decide what is right for you, and a lot of times it's trial and error, and just trying to figure out, okay, this is really what I want to be doing.
Totally. It took me a while with this brand here, the DJ Sessions, to take it seriously. We were doing the show from 2009, and it was always up and down and going in and out. But it was late 2017. I kind of had this epiphany. I was at the Eclipse Festival at Oregon. I just clicked. And I remember this is like one of those wake up calls. I've had a few of these in my life. And I said, okay, here's what my plan of attack is. I'm taking care of this. I'm taking care of this. And the DJ Sessions is going to be a full on company going forward and make this happen and make the right decisions. And, if I had money this whole time, I felt I would have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars learning mistakes. And a lot of people think we make a lot of money with this, which we don't. It's kind of like, labor of love, but we're always looking for sponsorships. And we've had some partnerships in the past that are great, but those ups and downs until you decide what works, what doesn't, and how you're going to move forward.
Right. I mean, I'm actually, there was something popping up on the side with the questions, and one of them was, can you make a living DJing? And short answer is no. A long answer, it's possible, but it's a very, and I mean, this kind of goes back to the whole music business, which is so very top heavy, right? So, like a statistic, just to throw it out there, 77% of all revenue in the music business created goes to the top 1%. So the rest of the 99% of people in the music business get 23% of the money. So it's a very top heavy business. So unless you're literally right at the top or kind of in the, I guess, B level tier, it's very hard to try to make a living DJing. It's just, you'll have to probably supplement it with something else, and unless you get really lucky, and it's an overcrowded field, and it's basic economics. If you have too much supply and not enough demand, I mean, there is demand for sure, but the supply is so much more than the demand that it just pushes the cost down to zero, basically. So, yeah, I'm not trying to discourage anybody to not enter the field, but
Well, there's another part that I say is, if you had 1 million people doing something and they all started out at the race line, but then you take 10% of those people and you get 100,000 of them, and they all have $10,000 to work with in their pocket, and the 990 the 900,000 left behind have zero to work with. These people with 10,000 are probably going to be able to get a website,
right,
hire somebody to do some PR
right,
work, the little caveats, maybe get a good press kit going, maybe say, oh, I can collaborate with this artist, or maybe buy the right gear and the right computer, or the right, and be able to train on that, or maybe be able to put on their own event or do
yeah,
their own self-made tour.
sure. I mean,
Get their
there's
name out
definitely
there.
something to be said about having some sort of startup capital.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't talk about this at all. But I've, the people that are, successful in this business often have some sort of existing capital to start with. Like they treat it like a business, but then you can't, like, what's the word? You can't forget how important it is that you have luck, right? So the fact that there's luck out there, people don't want to hear. But a lot of times, and this goes really for any business, the aspect of luck plays such a big role in whether you're successful or not. And of course, you can put yourself in a position where you can experience more luck, right? And that's why I'm talking about, like, networking and all this other kind of stuff. But a lot of times, let's talk about Saint John and Imanbek. Is that what you call him? I don't know. The guy from Kazakhstan who remixed Saint Roses by Saint John, and it was a huge dance record, right? And he really didn't have much experience at all producing or whatever. I don't know the full story, but from the way it reads, that was pure luck, and great for him, and it was awesome. And it's a great track. It bounces. It's a good thing, and it went big on socials or whatever. So all of that. But if you got to think about, the odds of that happening are like 1 in a million, or even more, because if, like, another statistic that I love to throw out is, every day Spotify has 60,000 new tracks on its platform. So every day 60,000 new tracks are put on Spotify. There is no way that all 60,000 tracks will go anywhere near the top. So, and there could be 5 or 10 number one hits in those 60,000 songs every single day. You just don't know, because it'll never go to the place where it needs to go. And that's where, luck starts to play a big role as well.
I was just looking up that article the other day, and found out that somebody came in and debunked that 60,000 a day.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Yeah, because it was someone says, okay, but you look at all these they can actually pull and look at all the numbers.
Right.
And it really boiled down to like 23,000 or 30,000 a day.
Okay, but still, I mean, that's a
It's
lot.
Still a lot. I know. It's
Okay,
not
so
a
maybe-
million. It's not a
okay,
million
I
videos
might
a minute that are
correct
going to
you.
YouTube, though.
Yeah.
You know, back when I was in school in like 2017, 18, I was in my marketing class, and my teacher's like, "Yeah, over 1 million videos a minute get uploaded to YouTube."
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's the traffic that's going on. Yeah, I was
And again,
like,
like, who's gonna watch all that?
yeah,
You
and
know?
that was one of the things that when I saw everyone jump online in 2020, it was funny because everyone from the no name bedroom DJ who never thought of live streaming to personal favorites of mine like Gabriel and Dresden jump online and do a show, but they would go live at the same time as Gabriel and Dresden's live. Well, if Gabriel and Dresden has 8,000 people watching their show, and you're right, that top 1% that already had a social following were getting the benefits of everyone watching the shows. But if you went live at the same time, well, why am I going to watch your show? I'm your friend. That's cool. But I want to go watch Macioplex. I want to go watch the Insomniac channel. Right. I want to go watch the big name DJs because I can't go to those festivals and see them. And yeah, it's cool. And but people didn't have their dynamic down on how to reach that audience and get out there and be seen, and then got disenfranchised because they're like, well, I'm not getting any viewers. Or I keep getting the same 5 viewers. How do I increase and get to 10 viewers or 20 viewers? I have people out there that still have been doing their shows for years. Great content, but they can't break 100 viewers on Twitch. Sure. And you kind of look back and go, what are you doing? What are you not doing that other people are getting 200, 300, 500, 600 viewers, and you're still only at 70 viewers? Where's what's going on there? Marketing.
Yeah, it's all luck. It's an uphill battle. Yeah. So, and there's so much noise out there and so much content, right? So it's very hard to break through that.
Absolutely. Is there something you'd like to say to new and up and coming producers to watch out for when it comes to making their career successful?
Well, the first thing, I mean, if you're a producer, like, you gotta make sure that what you create is up to par. Like, you may think it sounds great, but you have to be completely honest with yourself, because if it doesn't sound as good as other things out there that are professionally released, you're not gonna get anywhere, and you're gonna be very upset. And so it takes quite a long time to figure out. I mean, you can watch a lot of tutorials and stuff, and I mean, I guess in that way, just keep learning and keep teaching yourself. I mean, I still learn every day new things. I still watch YouTube videos on how to do certain things in certain VSTs or something, because you just can't know everything. So yeah, always keep learning, always be critical of yourself, and always try to improve in what you're doing. So that's from his production standpoint. And as a DJ, it's an interesting world out there. It's again, I think the way you get into DJing is by producing, or at least having records out there. However that happens, if you hire a ghost producer or not, I mean, it's up to you. But I have nothing against it. I've done a lot of ghost productions in my life, so for others. So I don't frown upon that at all. But your record is really your promotion, right? I always think it's hilarious, because back in the 80s, let's say, a band would go on tour in promotion of their record, and now you release records in promotion of your tour. It's a complete 180 reversal. And it's very strange. I mean, it makes sense because the money is in touring. It's not really in making records. So that's where I think that kind of turnover happened. But it's very much like having records out there as a DJ is important, because otherwise you can't really gain traction. If you're a local guy at your local club, you're opening for other big DJs, that's great, but if you don't have anything to show to the rest of the world, which a record is really the easiest thing to kind of put out there, then it's going to be very difficult for you to break through, I think.
I 100% concur with that, and think that is a great piece of advice. We started as a show that featured local DJs and worked with the bigger name DJs to bring them on the show and do interviews and guest mixes. And that's one of the things that I've talked with my local crew is, if you want to be booked out of your local scene, you have to make yourself appealing to be booked out of your local scene. Because
Right.
if you go to another local scene, there's probably 300 local
like
DJs there
right.
that are doing the same thing, and they're probably going to at least have friends in that market that they can bring, maybe 10 friends or 20 friends, or they're going to be, look at me, I'm playing, and you're going to say, I'm looking at you. But if you can't bring a draw with you, why would a booker book you if you're not going to bring them in? Or a nightclub would say, I'm not going to sell any drinks if I book you. Or,
Exactly.
I'm not going to have any ticket sales if I book you. So what's the benefit of booking you over a local booking person? So
Right.
we're talking with booking people because we want to definitely represent some of the people on our brand, and looking for a booking manager now. Hopefully we'll knock on some of those doors at ADE, shake some hands, and already getting feedback on some people about that. But it's an awesome side of this business, especially going into that side of it. There's so many aspects to this business.
Right.
I'm a live streaming kind of TV video producer,
right.
And I don't DJ, I don't produce music. And then you got, like you said, the DJ side, this side, then you got the booking side, the promotion side, all the back end stuff that people.
Well, that's actually one more advice I guess I have in that aspect, because don't try to do everything. It's like it's not shameful to admit that you are not good at everything. For example, I can't write songs per se, like top lines, like vocals and melody for a singer. I just can't write it. I can't. So I always work with people who know how to do that, songwriters basically, but they don't necessarily know how to make records. So, I work together with songwriters, and it works really well together. And the same goes for everything, like marketing, or like you say, video production, social media, even. If you're not great at it, then either try to learn it so you become an expert at it, or hire somebody who already is.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think, with that direction I mentioned early in the show, the only reason we've been able to grow this year so much more is because I brought on 3 people. I have an assistant. Wow. I have assistant overseas. I have assistant in New York, and I have somebody I work with that does PR and outreach for me, and will help me with my label management out of the UK. And it just takes a team, and it's just offsetting certain duties or getting the right people aligned. I got 4 interns that I'm looking to bring on board here shortly. God. Just to help everything grow, because you try to do it all yourself, you burn out. Or you only get a level. You can only get so much dedication to that. Like maybe I could put 20% here, 20% here, 20% here, 20% here. And when really I need to be putting 80% into one thing.
Sure, exactly. Right, that's exactly right. Maybe 20%. So focusing on the thing that really matters and where you're best at, that's the time best spent. Honestly, because you can waste a lot of time trying to do things that you're not good at.
Absolutely. Well, Bissen, it's been a pleasure having you on the show today. Is there anything else you want to let our DJ Sessions fans know about before we let you go?
Keep an eye out on Halfway House with Victor Donaire. It's been quiet sort of on the release front, at least from my own personal projects. I've been doing, like sometimes you wonder, like, what happened to that guy, right? I've been doing a lot of productions for other people, so that's why you necessarily don't hear about me. So we'll be releasing Donaire and Bissen tracks for Halfway House. There'll be a radio show. We have about close to 10 tracks ready to release. We're having them remixed right now. So look out for that. And then, there's some Area 15 shows coming up. I think there's 3 more left in this year, hopefully. So, just you can catch me there, obviously, as a performer, and come up after the show if you're there. and say hello. I always welcome everybody. Um, and yeah, just keep updated. I guess you'll post my website and stuff like that afterwards. So um,
That would be
djbissen.com.
djbissen.com
There you
right
go.
there. There's
And
a
it'll have
website
links to
for
my
you.
socials and everything like that, which I'm not, I just talked about it. I'm not that active on it, but, we're actually working very hard now on socials with Soul Machines. So that's coming up as well.
Yeah, I use a product now called Hello Wolfie, which I've just found to come and love and adore. It's a similar product to other social media tools out there, but
Right.
with the team and what they're developing and putting together, kind of a one-stop shop. And you can work with a team. Like I have assigned team members that help create. Like I take our news stories, I take our live interviews, I take our exclusive mixes, and my assistant will go in and create those posts for me, put them in Hello Wolfie, and then it notifies the whole team. It says share this now at
Oh,
certain
that's
times,
cool.
and then they can share it out. So it kind of
All right.
helps
Good to know.
automate that social
Yeah.
media process. Hello Wolfie, they're an awesome company, and great plans, and they're doing more and more. There's always adding new stuff. The team over there at Hello Wolfie.
Sweet.
So yeah, check them out. But Bissen, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was a pleasure having you. We will follow up with you,
Yeah.
as we plan to do with everyone that comes on the show every 6 months. Want to see what more awesome stuff you're coming up with, because I'd love to see one of those shows at Area 15.
Yep. I really appreciate you having me, and I guess we'll talk soon.
Awesome, will do.
All right, take care.
You too. On that note, don't forget to go to our website, thedjsessions.com. Find us on Meta, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, whatever you want to call it, TikTok, Instagram. We're out there at thedjsessions.com. 600 news stories, interviews, live interviews, exclusive guest mixes, our own shows, contests, and more. You can even find out about our VR nightclubs and our mobile app at thedjsessions.com. I'm your host, Darren, coming to you live from the virtual studios in Seattle, Washington, with Bissen coming in from New York City for the virtual sessions. And remember, on the DJ sessions, the music never stops.